I always thought Daniel was the safest thing in my life. We'd been together since college, 7 years of late-night phone calls, surprise visits, and the kind of shared history you can't just build overnight. Everyone around us said we were perfect together. And I believed it until the night I saw that red lipstick mark on his back. It was late. He'd come home like he usually did, acting casual, tossing his jacket on the couch, already heading for the shower. He said the heat made him sweaty. He always said that. But when he peeled off his shirt, I froze. There it was, clear as day, a bright lipstick stain on the middle of his back. Not on his collar, not on his cheek, his back. I swear my chest tightened so hard it felt like my ribs were closing in. For a second, I couldn't breathe, and Daniel, completely unaware, just kept walking toward the bathroom. "Daniel," I heard myself say, my voice flat. "Where were you tonight?" He turned, flashed that boyish grin that used to melt me, and gave the same excuse he'd been giving for weeks. Something about checking our wedding photos with the photographer, Sophie, the young woman with pink dyed hair who'd taken our engagement shots. If I hadn't seen the lipstick, I might have believed him. But standing there, watching him lie to my face, something in me cracked. I didn't scream. I didn't throw things. Instead, I smiled like nothing was wrong and told him to go shower. Inside though, I was shaking. When he stepped into the bathroom, I grabbed his phone off the coffee table. The password was still my birthday. I almost laughed at the irony. The phone was spotless. Too spotless. No texts, no late-night chats, nothing. It was cleaner than my own work phone, but tucked in a group chat with his old college friend. I found the truth spelled out in his own words. "She'll never know. Emily trusts me too much. Even if she checks my phone, I've got another one, another phone." My stomach churned. He bragged about how women are emotional and easy to control if you just give them a grand gesture. Like the time he showed up outside my apartment with a cake and flowers after I'd broken down crying on the phone years ago. I had thought that was love. For him, it had been strategy. My hands shook as I put the phone back exactly where I found it. That night, while he snored peacefully beside me, I searched his work bag and found the second phone, and that one. It was full. Photos of Sophie in skimpy outfits. Messages I didn't want to read but forced myself to. Their first night together had been just days after we met her for our engagement shoot. 7 years. 7 damn years. And in 3 days, he'd given away everything I thought was sacred. The next morning, Daniel kissed my forehead, handed me a plate of scrambled eggs, and called me baby like nothing was wrong. I played along, smiled, ate, asked him about his day. Meanwhile, my brain spun like a machine, planning. If he wanted a wedding, I'd give him one, just not the kind he expected. Weeks later, on the day we were supposed to say I do, the venue was packed. My family, his family, friends from all over. Daniel stood at the altar, looking every bit the charming groom. Sophie was there too, pretending to be just the photographer, her camera in hand, her lips twitching like she knew a secret. I waited. I let the vows begin. I let Daniel's voice crack with fake emotion as he promised to cherish me forever. And then, right when everyone's eyes were misty, the screen behind us flickered. Not the wedding montage people were expecting. Not our sweet engagement photos. Instead, video clips rolled. Daniel in Sophie's apartment, laughing, kissing her, whispering promises that were never meant for me. His other messages too. The ones where he bragged about fooling me, about how women were just so easy to manage. Gasps filled the room. Someone's grandmother crossed herself. My cousins muttered curses under their breath. Daniel spun toward the screen, panic flashing across his face. "Emily, what the hell is this?" I just stood there, calm as ever, my bouquet steady in my hands. "The truth," I said. He lunged toward me, but my brothers stepped in before he could get close. The room turned into chaos. Shouts, whispers, the sound of people recording everything on their phones. Sophie dropped her camera, her face pale, and tried to slip out unnoticed. She didn't make it. A few of my bridesmaids blocked her path, and me, I felt free. The weight of 7 years of lies lifted right off my chest. By the end of the night, the wedding was over before it even began. Guests left buzzing with gossip. My parents drove me home. And Daniel was last seen begging outside, his tie undone, his whole perfect image shattered. When I closed my bedroom door behind me, I let myself cry, not because I wanted him back, but because 7 years is a long time to throw away. 7 years of believing in someone who never deserved me. But that night, lying in my childhood bed, I also realized something. This wasn't the end of my story. not even close. It was the beginning. The morning after the wedding disaster, I woke up to silence, no phone buzzing, no fiancé rushing around, no to-do lists for a honeymoon, just me in my parents' house, staring at the ceiling like it might have answers. The funny thing about heartbreak is that life doesn't stop for it. Bills still come, people still whisper, neighbors still look at you in the grocery store like you're part tragedy, part tabloid headline. I went back to work a week later, telling myself I was fine. I wasn't. Every glance felt loaded. Every hushed conversation in the break room felt like it was about me, and honestly, most of them probably were. Then one afternoon, my boss, Margaret Reed, called me into her office. She was the kind of woman who could silence a room just by walking into it mid-50s. Sharp suits, sharper eyes, the kind of mentor you never forget, Emily, she said, folding her hands on her desk. I'm going to be blunt. I heard about your little wedding incident. I cringed. Of course you did. She leaned back. Look, I'm not here to pity you. I'm here because I see a woman wasting her energy on the wrong things. You want revenge? Fine, but revenge won't pay your bills. It won't build your future. I blinked at her, unsure if I should be grateful or offended. Then she slid a folder across the desk. There's an opening in our Chicago office. A year-long assignment. You take it. You prove yourself. You come back and this office could be yours. Your own team. Your own title. I opened the folder, skimmed the contract, then looked up. Chicago? For a year? Emily, Margaret said, her voice softening just a touch. Marriage is not the pinnacle of life. It's one part of it. Don't let one lying man define the rest of your story. Go see who you can be without him. That night, I sat at my kitchen table staring at the contract. Fear tangled with excitement in my stomach. I had nothing left to lose, really. My so-called future had gone up in smoke in front of 200 people, so why not take the leap? 2 months later, I was dragging my suitcase through O'Hare Airport. Jet-lagged and overwhelmed, Chicago was nothing like the small town I'd left behind. Skyscrapers stretched into the sky, strangers rushed past me with coffee cups and briefcases, and the wind cut through my coat like it had teeth. I barely had time to adjust before I met my new supervisor, Emily Carter. A voice called as I stood in the lobby of the Chicago office. I turned and froze. Ethan Collins, my childhood friend, the boy who used to walk me home from school, who once punched a kid for stealing my lunch money, the boy who disappeared years ago when we both went our separate ways, and now, standing there in a tailored suit, holding a clipboard like he owned the place, he was my boss. For a second, all I could do was stare. Then he smirked. Well, if it isn't the girl who once swore she'd never need me for anything. My jaw dropped. Ethan, you've got to be kidding me. Afraid not. He handed me a stack of onboarding papers. Welcome to Chicago, Carter. Try not to make me regret this. Working with Ethan was complicated. He was older now, sharper around the edges, but underneath I could still see the boy who used to tease me mercilessly. He treated me like an equal, but he also pushed me harder than anyone else had. Late nights, endless reports, constant deadlines. At first, I hated him for it, but somewhere along the way, I realized he was making me better. One evening, after we'd both stayed late finishing a proposal, I caught him watching me across the table. His expression wasn't mocking. For once, it was softer, almost protective. What? I asked, rubbing my tired eyes. He shook his head. Nothing, just, you've changed. You're tougher than I remember. I wanted to laugh, but the truth was, he was right. Chicago was toughening me, or maybe heartbreak had. Either way, I wasn't the same woman who'd once begged Daniel to love her, right? Weeks turned into months. My work improved, my confidence grew, and Ethan kept showing up in ways I didn't expect, bringing me coffee before big meetings, checking in when I looked tired, making me laugh when I thought I'd forgotten how. Then one day, a message popped up on my phone, from an unknown number. It was Sophie. She'd attached a picture of herself and Daniel, holding a marriage certificate. The message read, Emily, Daniel chose me. We're married now. Please stop interfering in our lives. I stared at the screen, stunned, then let out a bitter laugh. Interfering? I hadn't spoken to Daniel in months, if anything. They were the ones still chasing me. Before I could respond, Ethan leaned over, glanced at my phone, and without hesitation grabbed it. He typed something, then hit send. What did you do? I demanded. He grinned, told her my wife's too busy to care. My eyes widened. You're what? You, he said casually, leaning back in his chair. You're my wife in this scenario. You're welcome, I groaned, burying my face in my hands. but a small part of me, deep down, felt something warm flicker to life. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't just surviving, I was starting to feel alive again. Life in Chicago didn't slow down, if anything, it moved faster. Days blurred into nights, deadlines into presentations, but somewhere in the middle of all that chaos, I found myself changing. I started walking into meetings with my shoulders back, not second-guessing every word I said. I stopped apologizing for taking up space, and more than once, I caught Ethan watching me like he was proud, not that he said it out loud. Ethan was still Ethan, sarcastic, stubborn, and infuriatingly good at pushing every button I had, but he was also there, always there, when the wind cut through my coat. He'd drape his scarf around my neck without a word when I bombed a presentation. He bought me tacos and stayed up with me until midnight fixing the slides. When I laughed too hard at some stupid office joke, he laughed with me. Not at me, it felt safe. Different from what I'd known with Daniel. With Daniel, I was always performing, always trying to be enough. With Ethan, I could just be. One night, after another long day, we were walking back from the office. The city lights reflected off the river, the air sharp with cold. I shoved my hands deeper into my pockets, and Ethan glanced at me. He said, "I don't think I've ever seen you like this." Like what? Like yourself. I stopped walking, thrown off. I've always been myself. He shook his head, a small smile tugging at his lips. No, back then. You were always trying so hard to be the perfect girlfriend, the perfect fiancé. Now, you don't have to prove anything, and it suits you. For a second, the words hit deeper than I expected. My throat tightened, and I had to look away. Well, maybe heartbreak has its perks, I muttered. He didn't reply, just brushed his hand lightly against mine as we crossed the street, and for the first time in years, I let myself wonder what if. But life has a way of reminding you that the past doesn't just vanish. One morning, my phone buzzed with a news alert. I almost ignored it until I saw Daniel's name in the headline. Local businessman Daniel Brooks accused of domestic violence. Wife files for divorce. The article was short, but brutal. Sophie had pressed charges. Their marriage had lasted barely 6 months, and suddenly, everyone who had once pitied me was sending messages. You dodged a bullet. You were right. We should have believed you. I stared at the screen, my stomach twisting. I should have felt vindicated, maybe even happy, but what I felt instead was tired. That night, I told Ethan about it over takeout. He listened quietly, his expression unreadable, until I finally blurted, "Why do I feel nothing? Shouldn't I be celebrating? This is the justice I wanted." Ethan set his chopsticks down, because revenge isn't the same as healing, Emily. Seeing him fall doesn't erase what he did to you. Only you can do that. I stared at him, tears stinging my eyes, because deep down I knew he was right. I'd been waiting for Daniel's world to collapse, as if that would magically rebuild mine. But it didn't work that way. You don't owe him another second of your life, Ethan added softly. You get to decide when you're done carrying him around. That night, for the first time, I opened my laptop and started writing a letter. Not to send, just to write. I poured out every memory, every betrayal, every time I doubted myself because of Daniel, and when I was done, I hit delete. It felt like burning something that had haunted me. From then on, the weight got lighter. Ethan noticed it too. He started teasing me less about my past and more about my stubborn work habits. He'd nudge my coffee away and remind me to sleep. He'd drag me out of the office to walk by the lake when I got too wrapped up in reports, and little by little, those small moments started to feel like something more. One Friday night, after a brutal week, we ended up at a small bar near the office. The music was loud, the drink stronger than I expected. I laughed more than I had in months, leaning on the table as Ethan told some ridiculous story from high school. And then, in the middle of my laughter, I realized he wasn't laughing, he was just looking at me. My breath caught. "What?" I asked, suddenly self-conscious. "Nothing," he said, his voice lower than usual. "Just, I've been waiting a long time to see you happy like this." Something shifted between us then, the kind of shift you can't undo. Later that night, as he walked me back to my apartment, I felt the air buzzing with words we weren't saying. At my door, I hesitated. He did too. "Ethan," I started, but my voice failed me. He leaned closer, just enough that I could feel his warmth. "You don't have to say anything," he murmured, "not until you're ready." And then he stepped back, gave me that lopsided smile, and left me standing there with my heart racing. For the first time, I realized that healing wasn't just about cutting Daniel out of my life. it was also about opening myself up to something new, something real. The following months felt different. Not easier, life rarely is, but steadier. My days weren't consumed by what Daniel had done anymore. Instead, they were filled with work I actually cared about, people who respected me, and late-night conversations with Ethan that I didn't want to end, but I wasn't naive. I knew the risk of slipping back into old habits of letting my happiness depend on someone else. I'd promised myself I wouldn't do that again, so I kept a little distance, even when part of me wanted to close it. One afternoon, Margaret called from the home office. "Emily," she said, her voice carrying that no-nonsense tone I'd grown to respect, "your performance reviews are outstanding. The Chicago team doesn't want to let you go, but I want you back here. I'm offering you the director position. It's yours if you want it." I sat there, stunned. A year ago, I was crying into my pillow, convinced my life was over. Now, I had an offer most people worked decades for. After the call, Ethan found me staring out the office window, phone still in my hand. "What's up?" he asked. I told him. He didn't flinch, didn't beg me to stay, didn't make it about him. He just smiled. "So, when do we celebrate?" That was Ethan, always pushing me forward, never holding me back. The night before I left Chicago, he walked me home. Neither of us said much. At my door, he finally spoke. "Emily." You know why I held up a hand. My heart pounding. "Ethan, I need to say this first." He waited. "I'm not the same woman I was a year ago. Back then, I would have clung to you, made you responsible for fixing me. But that's not fair. I don't need saving. I needed to save myself. And I did." His eyes softened. "I know." I took a breath. "That's why I can finally say this. I want you. Not because I'm broken, not because I need someone, but because I choose you." For the first time since I'd met him again, Ethan looked almost speechless. Then he laughed softly, shaking his head. "Took you long enough." When he kissed me, it wasn't fireworks or some movie moment. It was steady, sure, exactly what I needed. Back home months later, I settled into my new role. My name was on the office door. My parents looked at me with pride instead of worry. People whispered, yes, but now they whispered about my success, not my heartbreak. Every so often, news about Daniel and Sophie surfaced: ugly court battles, financial ruin, more scandals. But by then, it felt like watching strangers. That chapter wasn't mine anymore. One evening, after a long day, I sat at my desk flipping through old photos. One caught my eye: me and Daniel, all smiles, years ago. For a moment, I studied it, waiting for the ache, but it didn't come. I slipped the photo into a drawer, closed it, and felt nothing but peace. Later that night, Ethan called. "So," he teased, "are you ever going to admit you miss Chicago? Or should I just keep visiting until you do?" I laughed, leaning back in my chair. "Maybe I do. Maybe I don't. But I know one thing: I don't miss who I used to be." And that was the truth. Because I wasn't just the girl who got betrayed. I wasn't just the bride who never made it to the altar. I was Emily Carter, director, daughter, friend, and yes, a woman who finally learned how to choose herself first. And choosing myself had led me here, to a life better than the one I thought I wanted, to love that felt real, and to the kind of freedom I never trade. That's all for today's story. Thank you for listening. This is my channel. The tales I share, drawn from life or woven from imagination, are meant to offer you connection, reflection, and perhaps solace or newfound strength. If you long to see your own reflection in others' journeys, or seek a glimmer of light within the maze of emotions, subscribe to my channel. Listen with your heart. Explore the stories of life.